My name is Brenna, and my project was on reforestation as a natural climate solution. We were exploring the potential of post-fire restoration within Routt County. A little about me, I grew up in Utah, hiking, biking, running, skiing, rafting, all that fun stuff. I got my undergrad at the University of New Mexico in environmental science, and I'm currently in Utah about to start my graduate program in geography. My staff mentors were Tim Sullivan, the Resilient Land and Water Director, and Nicole Pepper, Geospatial Analyst and Intern Program Manager. Stakeholders for this project are primarily the U.S. Forest Service. U.S. Forest Service is a great collaborator for these kind of projects, and they really can't go anywhere without their help. Reforestation is a really powerful natural climate solution. Natural climate solutions are used with the goal for conservation, increased restoration, and improved management of land that increases overall carbon storage and avoids greenhouse gas emissions. Reforestation has the potential to sequester 20% of US carbon emissions if it's maximized. And for an idea of what that maximization looks like, there are 133 million acres of previously forested land within the US. A little background on our project: we set it up around this tool that the Nature Conservancy created called the Reforestation Hub, which classifies the total carbon sequestration potential of the United States through reforestation. It classifies it into 10 different land types or opportunity classes, and we chose to focus on the post-burn land type class. We chose post-burn because we felt that the data that they used was missing a lot of the Routt County's large burns because that data ended in 2015. So we've seen several fires that have been more than 20,000 acres in Routt County since 2015. There's also a lot of co-benefits for reforesting in post-burn areas, including watershed protection and restoration. It's a no regrets reforestation strategy, so people tend to be really supportive of it. And it aligns with current US Forest Service strategies for reforestation. Our first goal was to determine the total number of burned acres in Routt County that could be reforested. So we wanted to update that Reforestation Hub number from the original 2015 data. And we also wanted to estimate the total carbon sequestration potential using native vegetation. So we're looking at lodgepole pine, fir spruce trees, and aspen. In order to do this, we created a suitability analysis to help us determine priority areas for regeneration or for reforestation. And using that data, we calculated the total carbon sequestration potential for all of these areas that we had classified as high priority. And we repeated this for fires that have happened after 2016. And we actually went back and did 2 fires from 2002 because we were curious on what the regeneration was looking like for those. And then we did a field visit to the Silver Creek burn area in order to compare what we were seeing remotely with what was actually happening on the ground. And we used the US Forest Service fire boundaries in order to get that overall acreage. And then the National Land Cover data set helped us figure out what areas were previously forested before the forest fire and what kind of forest class it was. So was it that lodgepole or was it that aspen? And then our normalized difference vegetation index helps us figure out what the health looked like. So were these areas regenerating on their own? Were they still exposed soil? What was really going on as far as forest health? These are our results, the maps we found or we created. So the red area is all high priority. So it's not regenerating naturally. There's possibly exposed soil. All of the yellow is low priority. So it's showing some signs of natural regeneration. And we don't think it's a priority to go in there and try and reforest. And then the green is lowest priority. So that's an area that's recovering well. Maybe it wasn't burned very severely and doesn't really need any of our attention. And I thought the most interesting maps here were the Silver Creek and the Ryan fire. Because they occurred about 4 years ago, we would expect to see a decent amount of natural regeneration happening. And they are regenerating fairly well. The Silver Creek fire has about 30% high priority area, and the Ryan area has about 42% of high priority. Muddy Slide, Middle Fork, and Morgan Creek fires are all relatively new, so it's not necessarily surprising that they have so much high priority area, but it will be interesting to watch those over the next 3-4 years to see what is regenerating. And this can kind of give us an idea of areas we need to watch. The Zirkle Complex fire was also really interesting data. The Hinman area is regenerating really well. There's not a lot of concern there. And the Burn Ridge fire is about 78% high priority. For a fire that happened in 2002, this is a little concerning because we would expect to see very good regeneration at this point. Why this is not regenerating, we have to do a field visit to see whether it's elevation. There could be a few different variables coming into play here, or burn severity. And then I also want to point out that most of the Burn Ridge fire is in wilderness, and it is not currently U.S. Forest Service policy to reforest within wilderness. So for the total carbon sequestration potential, all of that high priority area, so everything red, we found 3.5 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent over 35 years, or the equivalent of 15% of Routt County's emissions. There are a few caveats to that number. Primarily, that 15% of Routt County's emissions is based off of a moving number because Routt County's emissions will go down over 35 years, we hope. And it's also calculating the total priority. So there's the thousands of acres. So we didn't get the opportunity to look at what really is feasible because we can't reforest thousands of acres. And a lot of it is in wilderness. So there might be some additional social considerations that come with reforesting within that area. Some other takeaways we had were about half the burn area is regenerating naturally, which is encouraging because about half of it is also at least 4 years old. But it is relatively sporadic, and as we saw in the Burn Ridge fire. So it does merit looking at those older fires to see where that regeneration is not happening. And evergreen makes up about 78% of the area with poor regeneration and severe burns. So that really underlines that we should be focusing on evergreen rather than aspen, which does regenerate very well on its own. These two maps compare burn severity and our natural regeneration. Burn severity maps, the data is collected immediately following the fire, and it shows how severely the soil was burned. And as you can see, there might be a little bit of a correlation between the burn severity and what natural regeneration looks like. So these maps could help create a quicker way of determining what is not going to regenerate on its own. So we can guess before we have to wait 3, 4, 5 years to see what regenerates on its own for areas that might be problem areas. And U.S. Forest Service and YVSC have an opportunity to be great collaborators in these kind of projects. Currently, the U.S. Forest Service is only meeting 25% of reforestation needs, and wildfire cause need is skyrocketing. A few things that YVSC can assist the Forest Service with, helping them find funding. There's a lot of grants out there that nonprofits can apply for that can be used to help government agencies with reforestation specific projects. Climate Crew is an awesome tool for the U.S. Forest Service. We provide great on the ground assistance for them. And then YVSC is has a great opportunity to create community education that really helps support these kinds of projects. Future recommendation, the first would definitely be to visit burn sites to be able to compare what we're seeing remotely with what's happening on the ground, just like we did for the Silver Creek burn, because before a lot of further action happens, we need to ground truth what's going on. Applying for grant applications is going to be super important in order to fund reforestation initiatives. And then creating a U.S. Forest Service and YBSC reforestation toolkit will help move things along faster and create a precedent for how to interact. A couple other projects I got to do. I got to work on the Beaver Dam analogs, and which I'm super happy about because I'm going to be working on a BDA project in school this year. And then I got to do a couple Yampa River reforestation site visits and set up some irrigation. And I visited a seed plantation site up on Gore Pass, and I worked on some zero waste stations. This internship was a great opportunity to help guide my master's degree, help me track it in a direction that can be helpful for the Yampa Valley. It really emphasized the importance of collaboration between private and public entities. For me, we really need to work together, and I was excited to see how willing all the entities were to collaborate. And Tim really taught me that it's important to work on research that leads to action. We're kind of past the point where we can work on research that doesn't really go anywhere, it doesn't spur change. And I was inspired by all the climate enthusiasm I encountered throughout this summer. Thank you to Tim for his guidance throughout this project and all of his suggestions. Nicole created all of the maps and had a lot of great advice for getting this done. Thank you, Michelle, for all of the support for the program. Sam Han, thank you for your advice and taking the time to meet with us. And thank you to all the YBSC interns for teaching me all the cool stuff I learned about your projects this summer.